Well, thanks everyone for joining us. It's really an honor. I'm so delighted to have as guests today Robin and Michael Mastro. And they are experts in Vastu Shastra, which they're going to tell us more about. They've also been teaching the Vedic sciences of yoga, meditation. They know a lot about Jyotish. They know a lot about Ayurveda. And so with Vastu, they're able to really bring together these Vedic sciences into something that's a beautiful whole. And they're going to talk to us today about how we can work with our living environments and our living spaces to open up the energy to optimize wellness in our homes and in our working spaces. So just to welcome Robin and Michael, who are going to tell us more about what is Vastu. Thank you both so much for joining us. I'd really like to start by first asking you, A, what is Vastu? And why Vastu? How did you get into it?
There you go. So Vastu means building, and Shastra means science. It is the science of building. I was very fortunate as a young architect to be able to meet Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, the Beatles guru, in 1967. And I learned meditation and loved it. And he asked me to design some buildings in Rishikesh. And I didn't know anything about Vastu. I was trained to design what I thought were beautiful buildings, follows function, but I didn't know anything about designing in harmony with nature, which is what Vastu is. And it was at Maharishi's feet that he described certain buildings that he wanted us to actually architecturally design. And that's where I learned about Vastu, this sacred science. And it comes from Veda, which is a part of the Vedas that has to do with improving the quality of our life. In Veda, you have yoga, meditation, pranayama, Ayurveda, the science of healing, Jyotish, the science of the stars and how they affect us, and Vastu Shastra. Mm-hmm. And so it was really amazing to learn about it. And I was very fortunate to work on these designs for some meditation and living dwellings in Rishikesh that are still there, that are made out of rocks. They're like domes made out of the rocks from the Ganges River. And when I came back to the States, I was again fortunate to be on the design team for this first Microsoft building, where I got to utilize the knowledge of Vastu and some buildings for Boeing as well.
So I'm sure that the buildings for Microsoft and Boeing are amazing buildings, and it's so beautiful to think that Vastu is now in this sort of corporate field. But I am even more inspired by the fact that you worked on the buildings, those round bee honeycomb buildings at the ashram there. Wow.
Yes.
So for anybody who's ever been to Rishikesh or who hasn't yet been, if you go to Rishikesh, one of the places that everyone likes to go is what they call the Beatles Ashram. And that's where Maharishi Mahesh Yogi was. The first thing you see as you come up, you're coming up the hill, are these honeycomb huts.
Yes.
And everyone has to Google that, please, if you haven't seen them already. They're extraordinary, they're beautiful, they're wild. And I wonder if you can tell us about those. What's the idea there?
So these are roundish stones from the Ganges River, which the Ganges is that river is very powerful. And Rishikesh is said to be where thousands and thousands of people have gained enlightenment. It's at the foot of the Himalayas, and so it's a very, very powerful place, and the water is said to be very sacred, and these stones are very sacred. And so, yeah, making these round huts, they had actually two levels, a living level down below, and then up above is where you would meditate in these. And the experience that I had and other people that have meditated in these domes has been very powerful. So yeah, it's amazing.
You know, I feel like it's so exciting to meet the people who worked on building that. And then the main building where you go off to the side and there's all those little meditation spots.
Yes.
And the whole thing feels so curvaceous and
Yes.
womb-like. And yet you do go in those rooms and you just feel this instant uplift of your energies. Yes. It's so beautiful. It's extraordinary. Wow. Okay, so if you would tell us how does Vastu, when you talk about the Vedas, One of my lines that I love so much is Yatta Pinde Tata Brahmande. In the microcosm is the macrocosm. These ancient people understood that in every pattern of every living being everywhere in the world is the pattern of the all, right? So in the one is the all, in the personal is the universal. We can say that so many different ways. How can we create a living environment to optimize the energy and make us not only have better health, but to really feel better? How does that work?
So what in Vastu, what we try to do is align our physical body and our environment with the forces of nature. And your listeners were telling us about their favorite directions. So positive magnetic energy comes from the north, and it supports our abundance, our prosperity in our life. And it activates the left brain, the analytical part of our brain. And the east, the sun rises in the east, and that brings positive solar energy, which supports our health. So these two directions set up an electromagnetic grid system that covers the surface of the earth. And you can think of it as longitudinal and latitudinal lines. So we want our buildings to be aligned to these forces of nature and this earthly grid system. And when it is aligned to that earthly grid system, then we gain the support of nature. And again, Vastu is designing in harmony with the nature. That's why those domes, they feel so, you feel so connected when you're there to nature. They look like they were there, meant to be there forever, and they were always there, and they'll always be there.
Yeah, they do. And when you go inside them, you feel held by Mother Earth.
Yes, it's going back to the womb.
Yeah, right.
Navaratri, which is something that happens every year, this time of year, based on astrology, the timing. But that represents the 9 months of pregnancy. When you're in that womb, you're living. And so every year we go back into the womb to gain a rebirth, let go all of our attachments, all of our stress, and go through a rebirth. And so we just finished that a couple days ago. It's very powerful.
So powerful.
Those 9 days of Navaratri.
Yes. So can you continue on the directions? We've got north is left brain, analytical, positive polar energy. I'm just putting it in the chat box for everyone. East is positive solar energy.
Supports our right brain, our creativity.
And right brain.
Meditating, cooking, doing art, anything like that, facing east is very, very powerful. Now we're talking about true east, not magnetic east. And depending on where you are on the planet, there's this thing called angle of declination. So all maps, Google Maps, MapQuest, are best based on true north. So if you put in your address into Google Maps and pull up your house or your apartment or your office, the top of the computer will always be true north, and the right side will always be true east. So that's how you can kind of figure out true north and east. The compasses off very easily by magnetic forces in your house and in the floor and all those things. But yeah,
okay.
Google Earth to set you straight.
Good tip.
So those two directions are very, very powerful. Facing north is good for, actually, in the afternoon as the sun begins to set, you can face north when you're meditating. But in the morning, that positive solar energy, those as the sun moves across the sky, it creates different rays of energy. And in the morning, it's this ultraviolet rays, which is very life supporting. It supporting to your cellular structure. And then when the sun is directly overhead, it creates some infrared rays. And then when it's in the west, it creates these gamma rays. So both of those, the light gets very intense and can damage the cellular structure. So designing buildings to be very open to the north and the east and more protective of the south and the west. Not that they're bad or anything like that, but the directions.
Right.
Particularly true north or true east. Northeast is not at, you would think that would be the best
Yeah.
of the world.
Yeah.
You know, even when you're studying or working, you know, a lot of people ask me, well, what direction should I face? I think northeast would be great, but actually true north or true east are the best. Northeast is okay, but
Okay.
um,
Right.
so
Great. This is so good. So, and then, okay, and then can you tell us about, you mentioned the west, the south, these infrared lights.
yes.
Should we
So
do anything in that part of the house?
west is good, you know, for also for focus and creativity and knowledge. The south is particularly good for your dharma, for um, your career. And in fact, the southwest part of the house is where we place the CEO. So I put Bill Gates in the southwest corner. So whoever sleeps or sits in the southwest has more control. So it's good for that. And then
Oh, is for the CEO. Okay.
if you put the kids there, then they
Yeah.
control.
So does that mean the parents' bedroom should be in the south?
Yeah, southwest is
Southwest.
ideal. See what
Southwest is.
that positive solar and magnetic energy comes in through the northeast corner, which we call Ishanya, God's corner. That's the confluence of the solar and the magnetic. And then that energy splits and it moves around the house and settles in the southwest to benefit who's ever working or sleeping there. So the master of the house or the CEO of the company being in the southwest facing east has a lot of power and control.
So when you say facing east, what is that? Can you explain that a little bit more? Is the top of the head to the east? Okay.
Yeah. Now the sleeping positions are actually different. I don't know if we want to get into that, but we don't want to have our heads to the north or the headboard on a north wall, feet pointing south. The reason is positive magnetic energy comes from the north. Our body is a magnet, the positive polarities in our head. So if we're sleeping with our headboard to the north, it's like bringing two positive ends of magnets together. They repel. It disturbs the blood flow, circulation, and digestion. So sleeping with your head to the south kind of completes that magnetic polarity in the body. Or east or west are fine too, just not north, northeast, or northwest.
So your head can be south, top of
Yes,
your head south,
yes,
or east or west, just not north.
yes.
Excellent. Okay. Wow. I wonder if people listening have ever noticed if they've ever slept, if they do have their headboard to the north, or if they've been visiting somebody and traveling or something in their north, if they've noticed that their sleep wasn't as good or they woke up feeling less energized. Fascinating. It's fascinating. Don't you think it's fascinating? Wow. It's mind blowing.
Yeah, in fact, they bury people with their head to the north so the body decomposes more quickly. So we wouldn't want to be doing that during our life.
Wow. And Michelle even says it happened. So now I have my kitchen's in the south, wait, where is it? Southeast. My compost is in the west. How am I doing with that?
Perfect, perfect. Yeah.
Okay.
Southeast. So each direction is associated with one of the five elements. And in Ayurveda, when the five elements are out of balance, then we feel some dis-ease in the body. And Vastu takes that a step further to balance the five elements in the body of your body, which is your environment.
Yeah.
So so southeast is associated with Agni, the fire element. So having your stove in the southeast area of your house is ideal. Northwest is also good because northwest is the air element. Air and fire are friendly. So you can have a stove in the northwest area as well. Northeast has to do with your spiritual growth. Southwest is the earth element, has to do with how you support yourself, your career. And then southeast is your energy. If there's some imbalance in the southeast, like you have a big swimming pool or a fountain reducing that fire element, or a toilet, that reduces your energy, and so you can feel tired, sluggish, and it can eventually affect your health.
Right.
Passion.
What's that, Robin?
I said it also affects passion.
Mm.
And I think even though the Northwest is about relationships, without the energy to have a relationship or be positive in a relationship, you need that energy, that passionate energy. And if you're lacking that, your relationships don't flourish.
And this is which direction now?
Southeast.
Southeast for the Agni. Okay, good. Can we review this? So I've got southeast is Agni, northwest is air, northeast is
Water.
water.
It's water
right.
is all about growth, spiritual
Growth.
prosperity, your finances, all of that. And then southwest is earth, how you support yourself from your physical structure to how you support yourself and your family, your life purpose, your career, what you came here to do, your dharma.
It's absolutely so amazing. So one of the things that I've heard you talk about is that if you have like a toilet in the wrong area and it's draining and it's pulling your energy down, there is a remedy that you can do. And can you share that with us?
Specific, what we call energy correction device or a yantra. Yantra is a physical representation of a mantra or sound. It's a frequency. And when a toilet or a stove or any other physical fixture is in the wrong place in a house, energy gets stuck. It's like a river is flowing and then there's a bend in the river. Some of the water eddies, stagnates, and pollutes. So same thing, when things are not in the right place in your house, energy can get stuck and create some stress. And depending on where energy gets stuck in your house or your body, it can affect part of your life, whether it's your health, your finances, your career, or your relationship. Air element is in that northwest area. And when the air element is out of balance, then your communication, your speech, your actions are not harmonious. So it affects, bottom line, affects your relationships.
So we can talk more about colors, but I'm curious about, just so everyone's aware, this is so cool. But the yantras is going to lead us to the altars, which Robin's going to share a lot on. It's so exciting. But before we go there, I've heard that if you have, like if your bathroom is in the southeast, or let's say your bathroom's in the southeast, I was told that you can use color also to remediate. So can we talk about that? And then I want to come back to yantra and why it works.
It's all based on the Einstein principle that Einstein talked about. So everything's made of energy, and so that your house is a living, breathing organism, just like our physical body. And when energy gets stuck in your house, if you place something near that energy that's stuck or on it, and we'll talk about how it relates. Basically, if energy gets stuck in your body, like a marma point or a meridian, and you go and you get acupuncture treatment or a marma massage or a chiropractic adjustment, people who understand how the energy flows in your body, they know where energy is getting stuck and how to release that energy and get it to start moving again through acupuncture, etc. Mm-hmm. So that's exactly what we're doing in Vastu. We're locating where that energy is getting stuck and using these yantras to move that stuck energy. And the yantra is a frequency that's based on everything being in balance. So there are certain colors that are our frequency and that we use in the yantra to move that stuck energy. So yeah, for example, if the toilet was in the southeast, that's the Venus area of the house. So having some rose colors there can be helpful. But the yantra is actually even more powerful because it's 9 equal squares, like a tic-tac-toe basically, with Sanskrit numbers in each square, and they add up horizontally, vertically, and diagonally to a particular coefficient or of energy or frequency of energy that is in balance. And so again, we want to match the frequency of balance and get the stuck energy to start moving again.
It just goes to show how complex energy is and how it's so dynamic. And that idea of replication in Vedic architecture, we see that replication again, that idea, yata pendates tavarande, right? That these replications of patterns are everywhere in the world, and that you can bring in a Sri Yantra, just a little Sri Yantra, that big maybe. The
Yes.
Sri Yantra behind you, for instance, that looks red. Is that something I could put in my southeast bathroom?
Yes,
Okay.
is a color. There's a gentleman in your audience. His name is Scott Haig, and
Yeah, hi,
he
Scott.
paintings of Lakshmi and different deities, and he puts the yantra on the backside of the painting, so it becomes very
Very
powerful.
nice.
Used to uplift prosperity if it's placed in the Northeast.
He also does puja to the yantra before he begins the painting. So the painting is energized with the energy of that deity before it even becomes art. And he's actually, I'm giving you, oh,
He's going to show us a painting.
Wow, Scott, thank you for being with us, and thanks for showing us that beautiful Lakshmi. I just love the puja to the yantra. The yantra is there with the picture. Like she's just emanating that beautiful energy. Oh, so Scott, how can we find you or your work if people wanted to access it?
You could put it in the chat, I guess.
Maybe you can chat. Maybe you can add it to the chat. That'd be great. Thank you. Great. Okay, so we were talking about. I just find it so fascinating that a Sri Yantra can actually somehow change the energy that dramatically.
But yeah, there's so many ways to balance the energy using paintings and using colors and things like that. We kind of combine all of them in these specific Vastu yantras that we use.
Okay, great. We need to speak about your EMFs, but can we? There are some questions too, and everyone, I want you to know we will come specifically to your questions. But I'm curious too about the remediations because, again, when we think about Vastu, I've heard people say that Vastu is like the yoga of feng shui. But then I've heard it differentiated where I've heard that feng shui is more remediation, a room that has that energy can be remediated, whereas Vastu is more, originally at least, about how you build. So it's starting with the building and the architecture. And yet you guys seem to have been really effective at helping people with the remediation.
Yeah, so when I first started, there is that, it's a kind of a misconception that it can only be, Vastu is only if you build from scratch. So a lot of people were, we do both. I design many houses every year or build office buildings using Vastu. But so many people kept asking me, what can we do? We love our house and, we maybe can't afford to build. And so I started looking into it. And yes, there are so many ways to move that stuck energy. So feng shui and Vastu have the same goal, to move energy that's stuck. Because when energy is stuck, then it affects some part of our life. And feng shui just goes about it a little bit different than Vastu. Vastu is about 7,000 to 10,000 years old, and feng shui is about 2,500 years old. About 2,500 years ago, the knowledge of Vastu was carried over the mountains from India to China, and it was adapted to the local cultural and climatic conditions of the time and became known as feng shui. So they use a lot of different, more gross kind of ways to balance the energy, crystals and flutes and many, colors and different things. And it definitely has an effect. I've practiced both, and I just found quicker and more lasting results with Vastu.
With Vastu. I want to let everyone know that. Go ahead.
Way.
Okay. So I just want to let everyone know that up at the top of the chat box, I've put in a little description about the Mastros and their website. They do have some free downloads for us. And then we're going to talk about these EMF plugs as well, in terms of these remediations. But when we talk about one very powerful way of remediating the energy that is already in your home, I am really curious to hear from Robin about what you've learned about the altars and how you can create. It feels like when I hear you talk about the altars, it feels like you're creating like a mini home almost, like a mini 4 directions.
Well, I kind of wanted to read something out of our second book, The Way of Vastu, which that's kind of it.
Way of Vastu, great.
Um, but there was when you were talking about the macrocosm and the microcosm, there is a quote that I have in this book from the Upanishads. And I just think it is, to me, when I read it, it's like going into meditation. Within the city of Brahman, which is the body, there is the heart. And within the heart, there is a little house. The house has the shape of a lotus. And within it dwells that which is to be sought after, inquired about, and realized. What then is that which dwelling within this little house, this lotus of the heart, is to be sought after, inquired about, and realized? As large as the universe outside, even so large as the universe within the lotus of the heart. Within it are heaven and earth, the sun, the moon, the lightning, and all the stars. What is in the macrocosm is in the microcosm. I kind of feel that is how I got into doing these altars, is that I was in a program getting my master's in whole systems design at Antioch. And I could see that there was a need, because Vastu is a very complex, very ritualistic science, because it's old and it came from a whole different time where people really cognized the workings of the universe through meditation, and they were much more open to the natural workings within with what is seen and unseen. They didn't have kind of the limitations that we do. And I kind of realized that we needed to make Vastu more accessible to the West. In the West, like things that work fast and are fun to do. So my graduate work ended up creating these small microcosm environments that are like a microcosm of the universe in perfect order. And I kind of came to this after I was in India and also going through my graduate project, and I needed to combine what I was learning into that final project to get my master's. And everywhere in India or Bali or, most cultures outside the United States, people have altars to honor the divine in their own specific ways. And I thought, well, the elements are not in perfect order within a altar that's used for puja. And I thought, well, what if we put the altars, utilizing the science of Vastu, put the elements in a certain pattern, what would happen? And I begged and coerced some family and friends to be my guinea pigs. And very quickly, their lives began to change. And it was more obvious to the meditators than the non-meditators, but everybody had changed. Some that didn't could not kind of associate what was going on in their lives that was so different to the altars, but the meditators knew. They could feel the energy of the altar. So the altar is, because Vastu is a directional science, there are 8 directions within a home. There are 8 specific altars based on the energy of those directions. And actually, one of the downloads, the ebooks that you're going to get today, if you want them, is about creating a full moon altar for abundance in all things. And this is like a monthly altar that you create. You make it as the moon is building to its fullness, and then you take it down maybe 2 or 3 days later. And I cognized this specific altar before I even knew about Vastu. It was like it was a deep meditation, but I felt like I was totally there. I was watching a large group of people, and the influence was Druid. I could feel it was more European based, European, and they were offering everything of value to them, to the divine in a clearing. And I was watching from the forest, just before the clearing. And I could see that the elements were placed in a specific pattern. And in the middle, they had this hammered chalice of gold. And I watched them put all the valuable things into that chalice and do ceremony and chant and pray and dance. And I thought, when I came out of it, it was so profound that I was like so impacted. It actually was a pivotal point in my life. It changed my life because
Mhm.
at that point I was a struggling single mom who was kind of living hand to mouth at that point, and we had just lost everything. And
Mm.
my husband at the time, who wasn't Michael, his father gave us the money to move into this little townhouse. And I was so grateful to have a roof over my head because I'd been homeless for 3 weeks with this baby that wasn't even a year old.
Mm.
And so I thought, well, I can do this. I wonder what would happen if I did it. So I figured it was outside, and I was living in the Seattle area. And I went, well, I'll do it until it starts raining outside. So I took everything of value, my checkbook, all the money I had, my jewelry. I guess I had a few credit cards, and I didn't have a hammered chalice, but I had a salad bowl, and I put aluminum foil in it. I figured it was about reflecting the light of the moon.
Beautiful.
And I
Wow.
put it outside, and I put the elements that I remembered in their proper order. And I just was like, I guess I'll see what happens. I never bounced a check again. I never was without again. And that
Wow.
was, golly, my daughter was like 1 and she's going to be 37. So that
Wow.
was a long time ago.
Yeah.
It absolutely changed my life. So I had this inclination. This was definitely, some sort of ancient ceremonial process, and that I just tapped into. Uh,
Mm.
so when I came back from India with Michael after seeing all the altars, it kind of reminded me like, well, I do this every month. Maybe there's something there. So bring
Mm.
to my graduate committee to just say, what if I make small environments that are like the universe in perfect order? What would happen?
Yeah.
And they were very excited. Both of them were graduate PhD architects, one from UC Berkeley, the other from University of Cairo. And they were like, you could change the face of architecture. And I think this is old. I don't think it's me changing the face of architecture, but let's see what happened. And it actually, it is, my graduate work is the basis for our first book called Altars of Power and Grace,
Mhm.
which is powerful. And this book won 10 National Literary Awards the year it came out, and was Book of the Year 4 times. So it made a lot of impact.
Ah, yeah. Okay. Can you, is there any picture in there that you might open to and show us?
Every
And
This book is, yeah, it is like a visual feast. So the whole book is 4 colors. So let me get to one of our.
while you do that, just to let everyone know that on their website they do have these books for sale. Can you push that a little closer to the camera? There we go. I mean,
So I was very fortunate with this book. I hired 2 designers that were designers for mandala books in Northern California,
mhm.
which have beautiful winning spiritual books. And they did a gorgeous job. They actually did designed my first 2 books. I wanted them to be beautiful because one of the most important parts of creating altars is that they have to touch your heart. They have to be beautiful. When you look at them, you have to say, oh my God, I love this.
Mhm.
Beauty and love feed the positive. You
Mhm.
know, when you are touched so deeply that you look at something, and each time you look at it, you have that profound sense of gratitude and love for it, it makes the altar more energized, and it helps you to create what you do want quicker.
Yeah.
Say, don't create more than a couple altars at a time.
Mm.
You can add the third one being your full moon altar, which you take up and you create and then you take down every month, because things start happening and you just want to make sure you know which altar is helping you do what. I
Mhm.
made all 8 altars and they were just spinning
Mm. Mm.
change that they couldn't figure out what was going on. It was a little too chaotic for them, even though it was good change.
Ah,
So Yeah, I love this. I think the time has really come for this work to be out there more regarding the altars, because it does create it creates a conduit. It's like tuning in a radio to the proper station.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
just creates an opening for the divine to serve you.
Mm.
I haven't found anything else that create does this so precisely and so beautifully.
So beautiful. I love that it's the world, this world of ours, this life is not random.
Yeah.
And I love when I listen to the two of you, I feel like you're empowering everyone to come back to the harmony that our world so needs right now, not just individually, but we need it collectively.
We got into this work because we've been teachers of meditation, yoga, Vedic breathing for many, many years. And even with all the tools that we taught our our students and friends, we could still see they were suffering. And it's like the main reason that Michael and I got together was to do good work in the world. I mean, next Monday is our 30th wedding anniversary. So
Wow, congratulations.
I, I, I think that, and I've used so much of these principles even to attract Mike. I actually wrote a book about it called Make It Right, because it works. It actually works. So I just feel like this is the thing that really fine tunes you being empowered enough to manifest what you do want.
I love that. So can you give us an example of something apart from the full moon? Because I love that, a lot of people have altars and they'll put on their crystal or their picture of their teacher or their guru, certain things, flowers, etc. But how is it different, what you're talking about?
It's the placement of the elements, and it's the symbolic placement of the elements and the ritual to ignite it. In Altars of Power and Grace, I give 5 different ways to ignite an altar. And it's also, what's interesting, we had friends who were very high level spiritual beings, who supported our work, who kind of um, presented some of these potent ways of manifesting what you want through the ritual of ignition.
Mm,
And so it's like I don't know. I think that, besides Scotty being a great artist, I had people from Guru Mai's ashram who were senior editors for her as my editors on each of my books. They would just
mm,
show
mm, mm,
I had these people who were steeped in Vedic knowledge participate in all levels of the
mm,
creation of this book. It was just perfectly guided.
mhm,
So I think that having the alchemical formula of manifestation, of bringing the divine energy into physical form, is such a different way of thinking. It's such a great tool, and I know that it works. I mean, I get letters every week. I mean, we've sold this book out so many times, it's ridiculous.
yeah,
um,
yeah.
because this stuff is powerful.
Mhm. Reminds me of Jyotish when we might offer as an upaya a gem that needs to be activated. I like that idea that you ignite the altar through, maybe like Scott does with his paintings, through puja or some sort of ritual. That's beautiful. I love the idea of you really also putting yourself into it.
Yeah, and the creation has to touch your heart. It's not just placing these items, and I've had people like in our meditation group, say to me, your altar's not working for me. And it's altar, it's yours. But if you
Mm,
don't come at it surrendered and willing to open yourself up to the possibility that things can get better.
mm,
One guy come to one of our full moon altars. His wife was a member of our satsang group, and he was like this straight Marine, kind of normal guy, and never done anything spiritually, just let his wife come, and he was okay with her coming, and he was just such a nice normal guy. And so the first time he came to a full moon altar celebration we had at our house, he didn't bring anything to put on the altar, so he took his credit card out and he put it on the altar. And And I thought, well, that's interesting. That's a really thing. Most people would bring a little something that they want to put on their altar back home, or a picture of somebody who had just passed, or their dog who was sick or something. So
Yeah.
the next month he came back to the next full moon celebration we had, and he was all excited. And he said, you know, just what you did this last month, I got a raise, I got a promotion. I've been at that company 3 years. I've never been acknowledged. All of a
I
sudden,
love it.
so I mean, things start changing.
That reminds me of what Paramahansa Yogananda's teacher said to him. He said, the truth doesn't need you to believe in it
Yeah,
in order to be true. Yeah,
that is
you can believe in it or not. The truth is still true, whether you believe in it or not.
right.
Beautiful. Okay, so I have this question for both of you. What if we want to work on optimizing health? I'd love to ask each of you, what would you recommend to a client from the pure Vastu point of view and then from the altar point of view?
So I would look in the northeast part of your house and see if there, first of all, is anything that's not organized, like clutter, things that you haven't used in years that might benefit someone else. Because wherever you have things that aren't organized, energy gets stuck. So if there's an issue with your health, that would be like one kind of Vastu tip to look at. I would look at the direction you're sleeping. I would look at the direction that you're facing while you're working or meditating. I would look at what kind of energy, what kind of vibration, what kind of things you listen to. Because there's a very powerful mantra called Mrityunjaya mantra, very powerful. I can just a couple slokas. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sukandhim Pushtivartanam Urvarukamiva Pantana Murtyur Mukshi Yamamurtata. It's just short, but it has this vibration to kind of balance those 5 elements in the body and heal anything that's going on. I actually worked with a named Dr. Kulreet Chowdhury, who's a neurologist, and she was treating people with Ayurveda, different people that would come to her from all over the world that weren't getting better with whatever medical treatment they were taking. And then they reached a certain plateau. So we introduced the Vastu, and we introduced some astrological or Jyotish remedies. And they really took off, and they're in their healing process. We got to be on Dr. Oz and present that study that we did. But basically we were using the Vastu remedies to balance the environment and look at what planets might be need some strengthening in their chart that were affecting their health. So the universe gives us all these tools and answers to improve whatever situation we happen to have a challenge with, whether it's health, finances, career, or relationships.
Okay, so that's beautiful. As you're talking, I'm just looking to the northeast corner of my room thinking, it's a little bit cluttered. I have a bookshelf there. Maybe I need to get some organ. But when you talk about the corners or the directions, you're talking about both in a room and in the house at large. So we're talking about the room that might be northeast, as well as
microcosm and macrocosm. I mean, Robin is taking the Vastu of a very small altar. It can be very small. It can be as big as your backyard too. But yeah, we're looking at, the southwest or southeast area of your house. If you divide the house up into 9 equal squares, and then we're looking at the southeast area of your bedroom, and each room that you're in. They talk about the Vastu of a country, the Vastu of the world, the Vastu of a city. So it is microcosm.
I just love it. So on that note, by the way, there is a city, or there's at least a place in Iowa. And did you work on that as well?
Yes. I have designed some buildings there and done some rectification of existing houses there as well. Yeah, it's very powerful. And then they have these huge meditation domes and buildings that are very powerful to meditate in. And you can in and you feel the difference right away. And in the houses too, that is designed per Vastu.
Mm-hmm.
It's called the Brahmasthana, which is the center of the home, or the soul of the home. And it's open. It has either clear story or skylight windows that circulate the energy in the house.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the beautiful features of Vastu designs. Not only are all the 5 elements in their perfect placement, stove in the southeast, etc., and then you meditate in the northeast. But yeah, you have this open area in the center, and you can see this in many homes in India, like particularly south, but also in the north, where they have these open courtyards, and all the bedrooms and rooms are all placed around those open courtyards.
Mm-hmm.
So very,
you'll even see that in some of the colonial homes in Mexico.
yes,
You see that in Florence, Italy, where the whole building's built around a central courtyard.
yes,
I love that. It reminds me too of Ayurveda, where they say when you're eating, you have this much food, this much water, and then leave space for God. It's like in your home, you want to leave space for that divine energy, that divine flow in the center.
And that's why we have that clear story, for that celestial energies to come in and move the energy around.
So beautiful. Okay. And then Robin, what about you? What would you do for health?
I think that an altar in the East is called the health altar, and that's a perfect place. If you have health issues, child is sick, there's some sort of problem with one of your animals, that you. I had a recently a friend of ours told us, and I had never heard this before, that Mike had come to do her Vastu so she had the experience of it in the house, but she read the altars book, and her dog was really sick, and her daughter was young, and it was really just upsetting her no end that her dog that she grew up with was not well and could be dying.
Mm-hmm.
And so they made an altar. The daughter suggested, "Can we make an altar for him?" And so they made an altar, and that dog lived 3 more years. So it's just how you put your attention, how surrendered you are to the outcome, and having something that has this energy of God in it, of the divine. It's like when you do that ceremony to ignite your altar, it's like something happens. And it's just like the transmitter is open, and it actually, when you're in the center of an altar, is what we call an offering tray, and you put in that offering tray what it is you desire, but you don't put in everything. You don't make it a long story of demands and like has to be this model and this year. Say, show me what is mine. Show me how. Show me what I can do. Or like there's an altar in the southeast called the transformation altar, because we all need a place to go where we know we're out of control. We can't control COVID. We can't control a terminal illness. We can't control the fact that we just got fired, or that our money's really low and that we're just feeling a little crazy, or your son or daughter, got kicked out of college or something weird, where you just know, I personally cannot handle this anymore. And you down and you give it to God, and you just wait to see what happens, because there are times like now where we may all wish we could travel, may all wish that things went the way they are, but how can we make it through with some grace and ease?
I love that, because as you're talking, I'm thinking about how we had a cat, and I brought him to my room at the time, which was the northeast corner, and he was sick, but he lived a lot longer after that. And the southeast, I do feel like, when there's trouble and one needs to kind of work through some things, I do find myself in the southeast corner of either the garden or the house. I just find that interesting, how one can sort of naturally be drawn to these directions or these areas where subconsciously there's sort of a knowing. I think that's very, very beautiful to hear.
That is Agni, and what does fire do? It purifies, it cleanses, and so
It's so beautiful.
Magnetic beings.
Yeah.
Our nervous system is electric. Our blood has iron, which makes us magnetic, and it's like we're we're these tuning forks. And when we align ourselves with the forces of the universe, it feeds us and we thrive. So there is that energy in each of the directions. And in fact, Mike and I don't golf, but we do Vastu. We'll walk down the street and we'll look at the floor plan. We can see the layout of the house and we know exactly what's going on with these people just based on the slope or where the kitchen is.
Oh, wow.
You can see a lot of that just from looking at a house from the front. If the front is facing north, or maybe it's facing south, and then, like in our neighborhood, everybody knows everybody. So you kind of hear little bits and what you can see. I mean, what's happening just by the floor plan. And one of the things Michael hasn't mentioned, but I think is so profound, is that you gravitate to a specific floor plan in a specific period of your chart to work on the challenges you've come here to learn. And it's so fascinating to me. Urge, like, I gotta move, and you look at their astrological chart and it's like, yeah, this is exactly the time you need to move.
And I love that too, that you can look at that. It can be another upaya. You can look at people's astrological, their Jyotish chart, and then talk to them about remedies in the home to adapt and help them disentangle some of their karmas. It's so amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it is these complementary sciences basically give you the opportunity to rewrite your karma. I mean, they what they do is that they just smooth a bumpy road. So
yeah. And what I hear when I listen to you, and I feel is so important in the world today, I know in my own work, I hear a lot of people getting down on themselves. They blame themselves for their problems, or they blame themselves for somebody else's problems. And they, or they even go so far as to say, oh, my Jupiter isn't strong in my chart. Or, I just hear people just being self-negative, self-negating. And when I listen to you, I'm hearing that we are sacred beings alive in a sacred world. We're tuning forks, as you said, and we can tune into the divine energies. We can tune to the divine sound. We can open the heart and find heaven and earth and all the stars and everything there. And that these practices are enabling, empowering, inviting us to this divine relationship with ourselves and with life itself. Very hopeful.
Everything we see is a reflection of who we are and our thoughts. And so if we don't like what we see, we need some work on our inner work, so, and it's always seems to come back to, there's this very powerful technique, I'm sure you're aware of it and many of your listeners are, it's called Ho'oponopono. It's something you say to yourself when you can think, whenever you're thinking something negative about someone else or blaming others for your situation, you say, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, to yourself. And that mantra is so powerful because that heals what's going on within, so that what you see outside begins to shift, that energy starts to shift.
Yeah, let's all say it together. Will you lead us through one?
Yes, just close your eyes, take a deep breath in, and let all the cares of the day go. Breathe love deep into your heart and hold it, and let go of any fear, doubt, or grief. And now just say to yourself, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, thank you. And you can say this just to yourself, no one else, not out loud, whenever you're feeling like your prana, your life force energy is low, or you're thinking something negative about someone or something. We are 100% responsible for everything in our life. And if we shift, just create that energetic shift within us, everything outside begins to shift. With a big smile, you guys can open your eyes.
Okay, I love that. Thank you. That was very beautiful. So we're going to go to questions. Thanks, Christine. We're going to go to questions, but before we do, can you tell us about some of these great things you've got for us? There's again, at the very top of the chat box, I've put in their website. There's a specific link. So their website is Vastu Creations. Vastu is sometimes spelled, I always get auto-corrected to have 2 A's, but it's VASTU creations.com. And then you got /Vastu ebooks, where you've got 2 ebooks for us. Can you tell us about those?
One ebook is Vastu for Success. So it goes over a lot of the principles that we've talked about. And the second ebook is Full Moon Altar for Abundance in All Things. So the full moon altar is coming up in a couple of days. So this is perfect timing. Even it has a yantra in that downloadable PDF that you can cut out, you print and cut out to use to ignite your full moon. So that's a nice giveaway. But I did see in the chat somebody was talking about EMF, and Michael can talk. Do we have time to just address that?
I would love
EMF?
for you to talk about EMF, because that's where we were going to go next. So perfect timing.
So as Robin was saying earlier, we are electromagnetic beings living in a sea of electromagnetic energy. And in the Vedas, they actually talk about earth energies, underground streams, underground fault lines. And now in modern times, not only do we have to contend with those earth energies, as solar, wind, etc., we have these electromagnetic frequencies coming from satellites, coming from microwave towers, from power lines, and now we have these 5G things, that are very close. 5G only works if it's, within a block or 2 of you. And there are certain websites that you can go to see where the closest 5G transformer is, basically. And so, we are very adaptable, and we are trying to adapt to all these frequencies, but some people are very sensitive. I have many, many clients that, as soon as they, they plug in their router, or, they get a smart meter, like people used to go around and read your water meter, your electric meter, your gas meter, but now it's all a radio transmitter that emits a lot of electromagnetic frequencies. And then we have this 5G, which is even more bombardment from the electromagnetic frequencies. And so, people who are very sensitive get headaches, they can't sleep well, it affects their immune system, and once your immune system gets, lowered, then you're more susceptible to viruses, coronavirus, etc. So there are, God gives us all the remedies. So there is something called the paramagnetic material, and we put this paramagnetic material in a plug that you can actually plug into your wall anywhere in your house. And within 3 days, it transforms the wiring in your house to set up a protective shield to protect you from that 5G outside. And then we also have a pendant that you can wear when you're moving around outside that contains the paramagnetic material to protect you when you're, just walking around, etc. And also in these pendants, it's a locket. We can also place astrological remedies. We can take the Devata yantras for the planets that need strengthening in your chart to help protect you as well. So it kind of is a double protective, it's called the kavash, which is a protective shield. And then we have USB plugs that you can put in your car. A lot of us have electric cars now, which is wonderful for the environment. But again, huge amount of electromagnetic frequencies. I know people that would love to have an electric car, but they can't even get in them because it really affects them. So so this is something that we need to think about. Drinking more water always helps, reduce that effect. But this paramagnetic material in combination with plugging it into your electrical system in the house and wearing it or using it in the car has a very positive effect.
So for EMF plugs, I know that's on your website, but you have a special thing. If we use the code EMF, they can get 25% off.
25% off it's called 5G Protect plug, I think. It's
Drive
yeah,
G prote-
we only have few products, so you'll see it right away.
All right, good. Well, I'm going to go and look at some of the questions, so
Okay.
we can open it up for that. But is there anything else you want us to know before we?
I just think it's really important for us to think about 3 ways that we can improve our health, our success in life, whether it's spiritual or prosperity that you're looking for, or everything, you know, more harmony in your relationships.
Yeah.
One, we're going to work on the body with your Ayurveda, eating organic food, drinking lots of water, getting good exercise, meditating, yoga, etc. Reducing that stress through all these beautiful techniques that nature has given us. And then the second 30% that affects our success is the environment. You know, we have so many stressors in our environment. So whatever we can do to reduce the stress in the body and the mind and the environment is very, very powerful. And Vastu is a wonderful way to do that. And then the third 30% that really affects our success is the planets. You know, when we're born, all the planets are arranged in the sky in a specific way to create challenges to help us grow and evolve. And we're all going down the road of life in the bus of life, basically. And all the planets are the tires. And when the tires are deflated, the planets are weak, then it affects our ability to deal with these challenges that come our way. And so we start to feel the bumps in the road. But strengthen those planets with the kavash or different remedies. I'm sure Laura has talked about different planetary remedies based on our chart. If we know our chart, then we really know our karma. We know, oh, Venus is you know, creating some challenge for me and my relationships, etc. And not to blame the planets, but and you know, provide those remedies that are provided to us through all the sacred sciences, especially the Vedas. So think about it in a holistic way. We want to reduce the stress in the mind and the body and the environment and that planetary stress, and life becomes a lot more graceful. We move life a lot more gracefully. The challenges are still there, but we're able to respond instead of react.
Right. Responding skillfully. I love that you said that. Of course, that's the whole thing about we're not going to blame the planets, neither are we going to blame ourselves.
Right.
We learn these sciences to create a more sacred and sumptuous life, right? Not to deny or negate or blame. So these are really sacred tools.
And nature will support us.
Perfectly said. Beautiful. So our friend Emily says, we live in a tiny house with a bedroom on the west side with the headboard facing north. What kind of yantra could be supportive? Should they move their bed?
So if they, you know, tiny house, it's pretty fixed. It's hard to move. So if you could just throw the pillow on the other end of the bed at night and try it for a week or two, what 99% of the people I suggest this, they think it's, whoa, that's weird. But they, most people sleep more deeply and wake up feeling more refreshed. There's a lot of studies out there that shows that your REM states, you have longer REM states and more REM cycles, excuse me, if you're not sleeping with your head to the north, northwest, or northeast. So yeah, just give it a try. And there are some yantras that can help. A moon yantra is particularly good to help bring more peace of mind and give better sleep. But yeah, the direction has a lot of impact as well.
Okay. Someone did ask, what yantra would you put in the southeast toilet? But you were saying
that's a specific, you know, if you guys get a Vastu consultation from us, then we provide that specific yantra for that. It's kind of hard to explain. Not find in any book or anything like that.
Yes, I'm curious about that. So people can reach out to you, and you do consults. Is there a range of consultations that you might?
Yes. So basically, the most basic thing we do is an online consultation. I used to travel a lot, but obviously none of us are doing that now. So for the last 40 years, I've also done these online consultations because I don't go to Mongolia and certain places. So people just, they make a little sketch on a piece of paper, they take a picture with their phone, and they just shoot me an email or text me that little sketch. And from that, I can figure out where the energy is getting stuck and what we need to do to move that stuck energy. So I send them the yantras with instructions and a little video how to place them. Or sometimes I'll walk around the house on FaceTime and actually place the help them place the yantras in the right place as well.
Nice. Okay,
So,
great. And
there.
same with Robin, we could have a consult for where to put the altar and things.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds like fun, doesn't it? Okay, so any advice to protect from COVID, asks your friend Scott.
I think what we talked about is, reducing the electromagnetic frequencies, playing the Mrityunjaya mantra. You could even play it 24/7. It gets in the food and the water that you're drinking. That healing vibration is very, very helpful. Practicing Ayurveda, drinking lots of water, whatever you can do to boost your immune system, and whether it's through Ayurveda, through strengthening your weak planets that affect your health, and reducing the stress through Vastu in your environment. All of that will boost your immune system and protect you from these viruses that are out there.
And make sure that you have plenty of vitamin D. I just read somewhere that they're seeing that the people who got it bad didn't have enough vitamin D.
Do you know what I find interesting about that? As I was talking to one of my Ayurvedic mentors, is from Kerala, and a lot of his clients are from South India. And he was saying that even though they live in California and they get out and they exercise and they're in the sun a lot, they still need to take vitamin D because the rays of sunlight in India are different and it hits at a different slant. It's really how you started, the ultraviolet rays versus the, and so their bodies have adapted to a different slant
Yeah,
than
interesting.
the California slant. And so they're not absorbing the California sun.
Yeah, the obvious things like zinc, B3, and vitamin C, and ginger, and ashwagandha, and all of these turmeric to reduce the inflammation in the body. All of that affects our immune system. So we have so many great herbs and tools to protect us. So those are just a few.
Beautiful.
Chanting of the Mrityunjaya.
Yeah.
I think just having that in your environment 24/7, like we have old iPhones, we just put into a, like, what are those little microphone speaker things, and we just let it play on replay.
You could even let it go through the headphones. It's just the vibration. You don't have to actually.
I love that you said that, because on Sunday I got a text from a friend who said that her closest friend is suffering with COVID and she's not getting better. She's got asthma as an underlying condition, and that she was going to the hospital. And then the next morning I checked in, how's she doing? And they said they're sending her, rushing her to ICU, et cetera, et cetera. And I immediately sent the Maha Mrityunjaya and I said, please ask that they play this in her room.
Yes, anybody goes to the hospital, surgery, all that, we send them with that chanting.
Yeah, so helpful.
Very
beautiful,
powerful healing mantra on this planet.
Yeah. Okay, we have a couple more questions. So fireplaces. Someone asks, what about fireplaces that you no longer use? She has one in the east and one in the west. Should those be plugged?
If they're not being used, they don't cause much issues. But if a fireplace is in the north, northeast, or east, it's going to affect health and prosperity. If it's in the southwest, it's fire reducing earth, which is going to affect your career. And then southeast is fine and northwest is fine. But yeah, if you're not using it, besides the fact that it's kind of heavy, I mean, if it's a fireplace or something like that, we would want to do some Vastu corrections for it. But yeah, if you're not using it, it's not so bad.
Okay.
I just wanted to say something. We've built a house that was a perfect Vastu. Like I was talking to you, Laura, just this week about that. It was designed within a 16th of an inch of our combined astrological charts. It was, Mike did all the pujas and all the rituals to each of the directions. It was tricked out. It had everything. It was the highest rated lead is leadership in in energy and environmental design. It was the platinum rated Leeds house on the West Coast when we built it.
Totally off the grid.
Off the grid. It was, we had, I don't know, what are those wells that went 300 feet down? It was radiant heated. We sold energy back to Seattle. And then at the same time, a couple of years later, we moved down here to Southern California because we needed a little more light. And we moved in a house that was already designed and built. And we moved in, I think we were like the third people that moved in the house. And the minute I entered this house, I knew that I could do this. I knew soft landing. And it wasn't perfect Vastu. So Mike went on and did the corrections, and this house has been phenomenal for us. It's gotten better and better and better. And I think that that's the thing. It's like this works whether you build from scratch or you do the remedies, the remediations that we do. And they're very, very inconspicuous. So even if you live with somebody who does not believe in any of this, it's there, and
works.
It just, you feel it the minute. Like I have people who Mike does this with, and I say, well, now leave the house, count to 10 and go back in and see how it feels different. And it's that quick.
Wow. That's beautiful. Well, let's go with one. There's two more questions. I'm going to save a funny one for the last, but there's one. Maureen's asking, she's in a retirement community, neighbors on both sides and upstairs facing south. Is there something she can do? How is that affecting her energy? And is there maybe one or two things she can do simply?
Yeah, south-facing houses are not bad at all. What I find with my clients, before we do the Vastu corrections, is a lot of energy leaks out. All the positive energy comes in through the northeast, and it may be blocked in your situation where you don't have a lot of windows or doors in the north or east, but it's still, there's some that comes in and it leaks out and becomes unexpected expenses or unwanted expenses. So having some plants along the south side would be helpful. But really what works is the Vastu corrections. We set up Vastu energy barriers with Yantras, so they see each other and they create this energy barrier that, you don't have to close off your windows or put plants there. And it's the prosperity from leaking out, basically.
I love that. Prosperity, preventing prosperity from leaking out. How does that sound, Maureen? Yeah, that sounds good, huh? Okay, great. Final question again from your friend Scott, and Christine thought it was a good idea. Can you create an altar for election day?
Wow. Well, I guess it would be altar in the southeast. Transformation. I think. So I think that giving it to the divine, build an altar in the southeast with the elements in their proper place. So in the in the northeast, you put a water element, something like a translucent or clear cup of water would be great. It's like a little vase, and you can put fresh flowers in. Never put anything dead on your altar. You want your as alive as possible. And in the southeast, you want to put something that represents a fire element. It can be incense. It could be a Himalayan salt lamp. It could be a little candle. It could even be one of those little automatic candles, battery operated candle. The southwest, you want to put something of earth. It could be just a bowl of uncooked white rice. It could be crystals. It could be a small little plant, something of the earth. And then in the northwest is the air element. You could have a feather, wind chimes. You could also put incense there because incense is fire and air. So you could even put like a little statue of a bird there, something that represents air to you. And in the very center, you put your offering tray, and in that you put your wishes. But again, I say, do not get too specific. What you want to put in there are 3 words that are the summation of all of your feelings, what you want to feel. So it could be joy, it could be celebration, it could be relief, it could be happiness, but you want to feel what it would feel like to already have what it is you want. So, and then behind that offering tray, you put a personal symbol. It could be a collage of all the candidates you want. It could be something like that, simple, personal. It could be all kinds of words that are positive and really make you excited about the potential. And then you do your ceremony, you ignite it with something of value to you. Since you can't get the yantra, I guess it's like even a crystal or I don't know what else you could put to ignite the altar. It could even
Don't
just
we have it in the downloads?
well, there is the moon altar. You could use that, which is relationship, which is also another great. In the Northwest, you could also do a relationship altar, but I kind of feel this is transformation because we're also invested in this, that we're kind of.
Yeah, somebody said my I voted sticker.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
you just take a lot of deep breaths in and out through the nose and just imagine this already happening as you want it. And then put that item that you're using to ignite your altar in your altering tray and just like Om Namah Shivaya, give it to God.
Connecting the feeling of it already happening in a
Mm-hmm.
specific way that you write on the piece of paper is very, very important.
Mm-hmm.
And something I was just thinking of writing. I'm grateful for whoever will bring us to our highest good and in divine order. That's what's probably going to happen anyway. So I think
we're aligning with that.
I'm grateful for everyone voting.
Yeah, I love that. And so we could put a symbol of unity. I was thinking we could maybe a Lakshmi or a Vishnu,
yes,
even, and then really offering it up to God, offering it up
yes.
to the divine. So I'm also thinking, today's Wednesday, tomorrow's Thursday. Maybe everyone can activate it on Thursday morning, Jupiter's day.
Yes.
And then let it sit for a week. Okay, well, this has been amazing. I mean, I think after something like this, you just feel like, how do you not want to be able to do this in your own home, to be able to enlighten and uplift the energy in your own home? Because I think the more that we all enlighten and uplift, the more we have available for that to go out into the world, to become.
I think in all the things that are happening right now, Laura, it's brought us to know that we need to help each other. We need to get out of our small minds and be of service to one another. And we see more people coming to us now than ever before. It's like this kind of, we were so busy and we were so preoccupied. We weren't really thinking of what we really needed. And I think now people are realizing that we need community in order to grow. We need a sense of that we're not alone. And I think that the divine supporting you, Michael and I supporting you, Laura supporting you, Scotty supporting you. Every one of us has such gifts to share with each other. And so this is just a perfect time to figure out what it is you do want in the world and make it into some sort of service that really supports one another, because it's kind of what gets us through. It's going to be that.
And appreciate what's important to each of us, our family, our loved ones, etc. All of the rest,
and creating a greater family. I mean, one thing that we have here that we love is that all of our clients become like family. I mean, whenever they make any kind of decision, they're on the phone with Mike. A new house or naming the baby, he helps them with everything.
I help them, empower them to make their own decisions.
I love that. Well, it's true what you're saying, and I feel like it is such a blessing to be alive right now, even with all the uncertainty and chaos. What a time to be alive when we do have access to this divine knowledge of Vastu, of Ayurveda, of Jyotish. Wow, we're so fortunate.
Utilizing those sacred sciences, if we're trying to be regular with our meditation or whatever practices that we have, whether it's an altar or breathing techniques, or just loving our environment and our bodies and treating it well with good food and everything. We tend to not get sucked into some of this stuff that's going on around us and move gracefully through this period, even though it is very Vata energy, very
Insane.
mental, just everything is created as a distraction now. It's very hard to focus. And so your programs, just your practices and we'll move through this.
So I love what you say. I love how you're so of service. I feel like what you do is not just invite us back to the heart, but to, in a way, create that heart in our environment around us so that we come out of the Vata mind and into the grounded space of the heart.
We have so many beautiful techniques to bring us to the present moment. The past, holds us, it's like all the pain and struggles and challenges are either in the past or the future. But right now, in this moment, if we pay attention to our breath, pay attention to the beauty around us, the love that we have, that brings us to the heart, to the present moment, grounds us in the present moment.
And given us so much visual beauty. All we have to do is step outside, take a deep breath, and look at the world around us to realize, it's like there's so much there. Us, if we can just still our minds enough to appreciate what's right in front of us.
Yeah, amen to that. I say it all the time. Nature is still right there inviting you to the beauty and delight of it all. I am so grateful for this conversation. Thank you for bringing us into a present moment that has been enlightening, beautiful, and inspiring. You are really, really beautiful servants of Ganga, of divine wisdom and divine flow, and I'm really grateful to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks to everyone for being with us. Please check them out at vastucreations.com.
Wonderful.
Beautiful. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Namaste.
You. Namaste.
Namaste.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Punaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejashvinavati Tamastu Mavivishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti